Learning how to mix can feel overwhelming at first, mainly due to the vast amount of information and techniques involved. If I was to go back in time and start over, the one crucial aspect that I wish I truly understood early on, which can significantly impact the mixing process, is to understand the chain-like effect of mixing. Imagine mixing as a series of interconnected links in a chain. Each element of the mix, whether it's an individual track, an EQ adjustment, a compression setting, or a reverb effect, is like a link in this chain. What happens to one link affects the entire chain after it, and in turn, the entirety of your mix. So in this video, I'll be exploring this concept and everything I've learned over the past decade of mixing music for bands and artists. In part 1, I'll be expanding on this signal flow concept and showing you how to conceptualize this idea so that you can truly understand the impact each move has in your mix. Part 2 will focus on the master bus, detailing the process of constructing a master bus chain that you can familiarize yourself with and use on every mix. While Part 3 will go deep into template mixing, highlighting how this simple concept can significantly enhance the efficiency of completing a mix from the initial import of files to the final adjustments made on your mix bus. But before we start, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, I recommend checking out Sage Audio's Mixing and Mastering membership. As a member, I have to say the experience is incredible. Just for signing up, you receive 10 pre-mastered songs per month with your own dedicated mastering engineer, unlimited mixing feedback, and access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses, but more on that at the end of the video. To better understand the chain-like effect mixing has, I'll start out with an example. Let's say you've EQ'd and compressed your drums, but now you feel like your drums are lacking weight after this compression. So you go back to your EQ and boost some more low end. But now it feels like your drums are being overcompressed, so you go back and adjust the settings on your compressor to remedy this. This happens over and over again until you end up with a sound that's worse than what you originally started with. The problem here lies in the misunderstanding of the processing chain and how each move we make affects the next. When I was first starting out, it was never made clear to me how the actual order of your plugins will change the way they react to your audio. So for instance, boosting or cutting frequencies in an EQ before compression will ultimately change the way the compressor then reacts to your EQ'd signal. And this goes for every plugin you place in your chain. You really need to consider what each one does on its own, as well as how it's interacting with everything that's coming after it. Once I realized this, I was able to make smarter decisions to get my tracks sounding the way I wanted them to sound. So taking that same example again, if I were to do this today, I would still EQ and compress my drums as before. However, if I encountered a situation where I felt like the low end was lacking, instead of revising my initial EQ settings, I would add another EQ after the compressor and boost the low frequencies solely on this EQ. This approach often makes more sense than the original example because the original way I would do things not only made me adjust the EQ settings that I was initially happy with before compression, but also influenced how the compressor responded to the modified EQ settings after. You really run the risk of chasing your own tail, so to speak, when doing things as I previously did, because of the constant cause and effect each move will have on your track. There are times when this processing order still makes sense, but I think they tend to fall more into the creative category of mixing, like overworking the compressor intentionally to get a specific sound out of it, rather than any corrective actions. So expanding on the signal flow concept I've just covered, the next crucial part of this puzzle is the master bus chain, and how this plays a huge role in the sound and shape your mixers will ultimately take. No doubt you've heard countless pro mixers discuss and open up about their go-to master bus chains, and the reason there's such an emphasis placed on this one specific area of the mixing process is because it really does make a dramatic difference to your mixers overall. I like to think of a master bus chain much like I would my headphones or monitors. That is something you really need to learn the sound of first before you can truly reap the benefits of using one. I'm sure you'd find it uncomfortable to mix on someone else's monitoring setup or a random pair of headphones you find lying around at a studio. Well, this should be the same for your master bus chain too. By constantly swapping things out or using entirely new setups for each and every mix, you could ultimately be making the process a lot more convoluted than it really needs to be. I'd strongly urge you to take the time to find a processing chain you like the sound of and stick with this as a basic starting point for all future mixing projects. This will help to give you a consistent baseline to start from, so no matter what the source material you're working with, you have this small amount of familiarity you can fall back on and that you know the sound of. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't ever add or take anything away from this chain during the mix. Of course, you'll need to adapt this to each and every song, but getting used to a single master bus sound will really help in the long run. When you hear pro engineers talk about either starting with or turning on their master bus processing during the early stages of their mix, this is the reason why. For instance, you can listen to my project here, where I've only leveled and panned tracks, but I haven't applied any processing yet. I'll switch my master bus chain on and off, so you can get a feel for what this adds and why I mix through it. Like I said, it's really the same as getting comfortable with the sound of your playback system. You wouldn't mix on headphones or monitors that you have no point of reference for. You need that level of comfort to first make informed mixing decisions. If you don't have this, you'll likely end up with mixes that don't translate well across a myriad of different listening devices. So now you have a good understanding of how the signal flow within your DAW impacts your audio, and how the same idea also translates to your master bus. The final piece in this puzzle is to start putting together a mixing template of your own. This really builds off the same idea I talked about with the master bus, where you want that level of comfort from mix to mix in order to help you make informed mixing decisions each and every time. Not only does it help to quickly level up the sound of your unprocessed tracks, along with speeding up the entire mixing process from start to finish, but it also provides visual clarity too. Maintaining consistency in layout, track names, colors, and other elements across projects streamlines the transition from one mix to another. This allows you to identify each track at a glance, removing the need to solo out things first to hear what they are. Opening a blank DAW session can also be really uninspiring, so if you create a mixing template to work with, not only will this instantly inspire you the moment you load this up, but you'll also save a ton of time not having to create new tracks, load up your favorite plugin chains, or reroute your entire session from the ground up. The worst thing you can do when starting a new mix is to throw all your tracks into a blank project and just start mixing. If there's no organization to your mix, you can easily get lost and lose sight of the main goal, which is to make your track sound as good as it possibly can. So if I open up my mix, you can see that I have everything organized into folders, one for each key instrument of my mix, along with every track in my session being color-coded for these specific folders. So as I scroll down, you'll see that all my drums are colored blue, my bass tracks are all in yellow, guitars in red, and so on. As I keep all of these colors the same from session to session, I can quickly look at my mix and instantly know what types of tracks make up any given session. If I want to hear the bass, I know I need to solo out the yellow bus, or if I need to work on the guitars and drums together, then I know I need to solo out the blue and red tracks. To arrange your session in a similar way, start by considering the common tracks you typically handle during mixing, which can vary depending on the genre you work in. For example, my typical setup includes drums, post-production, bass, guitars, keys, and vocals. Begin by creating tracks for these essential instrument groups, and then these will serve as your folders. Your DAW may refer to this feature differently, but most offer an option for organizing tracks in this way. If this feature isn't available, you can create bus tracks to serve as your folders instead. Label these folders accordingly, and then create additional blank tracks to place within each folder. When dealing with a large session, you can collapse these folders to display only the key elements, providing a clear visual overview of your mix and its primary elements. It helps to maintain consistent track names across all sessions, regardless of the client you're working with. This will help you avoid confusion caused by arbitrary names like kick drum 24 or verse guitar with reverb and delay. Similar to color coding, sticking with this method makes it easier to find your way around your project and see things clearly. It helps you easily switch between different clients' projects too, as long as you keep organizing your sessions the same way each time. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, I encourage you to check out Sage Audio's Mixing and Mastering membership. As a member, I have to say the experience is incredible. Just for signing up, you receive 10 free mastered songs per month with your own dedicated mastering engineer, unlimited mixing feedback, and access to Sage Audio University mixing and mastering courses, which include start-to-finish walkthrough sessions for various genres and 35 multi-track sessions for hands-on practice. This platform is supported by their thriving community and tight-knit network of audio engineers. Every day, I see and hear great wins in the membership from both new and seasoned engineers, noticing a huge improvement in their mixes and masters after joining. Right now, you can join the membership with a 70% lifetime discount, bringing the cost down to just $15 per month. So join today and start creating mixes that sound like professional songs.